So the art of standing and starting with the feet is the theme of today. And we therefore begin with lying down. So lying down is a good way to let go of some of the we could call it holding patterns in the body that we've adopted over the years that we've been upright on this planet. And they may be influenced by injuries that we've had, the type of job that we've had, the types of hobbies or leisure activities that we may have been involved in. So you might know that from observing people in your environment. If you know any people who've done a lot of ballet, they stand very differently from someone who may have been in a sedentary job all their life. So each one of us will have these patterns in our body, and often it's a combination of letting go of some of the patterns, as well as building new structures in the body, new alignments that's needed to improve our posture. And also sometimes letting go of what one of my therapists calls the airs and graces of standing in mountain pose, which means different things in different schools of yoga. So we're going to touch on that as well. So we might have learned a way of standing in yoga which is helpful or not for our everyday standing posture. So starting with a bit of letting go. So inviting you to lie down, and to start off with, to lie down with your knees bent and the soles of your feet flat on the ground. And if this isn't comfortable, that already gives you some information about your spine, maybe how it is today. So if you need to alternate with straightening your legs out, that's absolutely fine. See how things feel is, as always, is crucial for this practice. And then we can begin with feeling the soles of our feet on the ground. Noticing the kind of imprint your feet feel like they're making. And if it feels a bit different perhaps from left to right, sometimes these patterns in the body have created an asymmetry in how we stand, how our footprint is. We can also pay a bit of attention to our sacrum resting on the ground. You can often feel it quite clearly in this semi-supine position with knees bent. Big bone at the base of the spine and the shoulder blades. And the back of your head. So it might feel like your left side is somehow heavier on the ground than your right, or vice versa. Shoulder blades might feel different. And just noticing that. Maybe it will change throughout the class. And then inviting you to draw a line, an imaginary line around your feet, as if you were drawing the outline of each foot on the floor by tracing a pencil around it. And doing this relatively slowly, so you're particularly kind of paying attention to places that you might not feel very clearly, maybe the gaps between your toes. Going around the toes, there might be some of your toes that you don't feel so well. And again, that's okay. Simply notice what's going on. And perhaps you're imagining where your foot is more than actually feeling it, trying to picture it, sense it in your mind's eye. So however you do this is okay. Our brain has a map of our body, a neural map, and sometimes it's not quite how the actuality of the body is. So an extreme example is phantom limb syndrome, someone who's had an amputation and basically still feel that limb is there. Sometimes we're using our kind of imagined map because we can't actually feel our second toe or whatever it is, and that's okay. And when you've done both feet, resting for a moment again with an awareness of the soles of the feet on the ground. So going from the outline back to the base, the landscape of the soles of the feet. And if your feet are warm enough, you can choose to do a lot of this class with bare feet. See how you are. It's winter, so you might not want to. Hopefully your socks or slippers, or if you're wearing something like that, are loose enough to move your toes around a bit to have some sensation inside. And the first movement we'll do is to kind of just move our feet around a bit, placing them in different areas of your mat or whatever you're lying on, kind of as if you're testing the surface. So if you're barefoot, you can kind of sense the surface of your mat or the rug you're on. You can press down a little bit. And also noticing your pelvis and your lower back shifting, changing. And then placing your feet a little bit wider than hip width apart, in a place where it feels easiest for you to press down and feel comfortable. So the next practice is to press down through one foot at a time, to press down and let go. And there'll be a spot on the floor to put your foot that kind of feels natural, where you can press down, straight down through your foot, from the knee down through the shin bone into the ankle, where it feels easiest, most balanced, most aligned. So it's good to feel that rather than do it on a visual instruction, like your big toe has to be aligned with the center of your hip or whatever. It doesn't always work for everyone. So see if you can feel it in your body with your proprioception, which is this brain map of where your body is and what it's doing. It's a particular area of our sense of touch, the sense of our body, our somatic sense, the awareness of the alive body. And then pressing down through one foot and releasing, and then the other foot. So you could do this really quite gently. If you've got any pain in your feet, be as gentle as you like. If it feels good to press down a bit harder, to the point where maybe your buttock becomes very light on the floor, it might even lift up a little bit. You can do that too, and let go of the pressure gradually, putting it on gradually, and then letting it go gradually. So we're also training the control of our muscles from contraction to release. And then if you feel that one of your feet, one of your sides, one of your legs maybe is stronger than the other one, is somehow more capable with this movement, and starting with that one, pressing down and holding for a few breaths, and notice how your breath feels as you press down and hold. You might feel that your core is slightly engaged and therefore your breath in your belly is not quite so free. And then gradually release and notice what happens with your breathing. And then doing the second side. And holding the pressure into the ground for a few moments. Noticing how your breath is. And then noticing what you do with your breathing as you let go of that pressure. Lovely. And then stretching our legs out for a moment. So resting on the heels. Noticing how that is. And with the legs relaxed, notice how your feet kind of drop out to the side. More than likely, there's a rotation, an outward rotation at your hips. And again, noticing the left and the right side of the body on the ground. And then rolling your leg inwards slightly so that your toes point up towards the ceiling. And you can maybe draw your toes in towards you a little bit so that it feels a bit more like standing. And you can bring your hands by your side and point your fingers up towards the ceiling as well. So your hands are copying what your feet are doing. And notice how this is. So this is a bit like standing. And again, noticing the left and the right side of your body. And then letting your arms and your legs relax again, roll out to the side. Letting your palms turn up with your arms resting. And then bending your knees again. And finding that sweet spot for your feet to be, where it feels like the best spot to press down through your feet. And then bringing your arms by your side with the palms down. Your fingers can spread out a little bit. So your hands have a good kind of contact and awareness of the floor as well as your feet. And then again, starting with the foot that feels most ready to take the lead, maybe feels stronger. Press down through that foot and the hand on the same side. And then release. And then going to the other side, pressing down through the foot and the hand at the same time. Once again, going from side to side. Bringing in this awareness of how it feels in your body, what's moving, what's contracting and gradually releasing. And then again, holding this pressing down through the kind of leading side that you started with. Notice your breathing as you hold this slight effort of pushing down, and noticing what you do with your breathing when you gradually let go. And then doing the other side, pressing down, holding, noticing the breath, gradually letting go. And then straightening our legs out again to a relaxed posture, corpse posture, shavasana, letting the legs roll out, letting the arms roll out so that the palms turn up. And then rolling the feet up again so that the toes point up. You're resting on the heels. You can draw your toes in towards you slightly. And this time, pushing the hands up towards the ceiling as if you're trying to push an imaginary ceiling away above your chest. So this is a bit more like a plank pose. Sometimes I call this lazy plank. And again, noticing how your body feels in this. Noticing also how the back of the body is resting on the floor. And then coming back to the relaxation of corpse pose, arms and legs resting. letting go of all the effort. And then rolling the hands down again, placing your feet in the sweet spot again, where it would be most comfortable to press down, maybe trying different places. And then pressing down through both feet a few times, just letting your arms be fairly passive just now, with the hands, palms down by your side, resting, pressing down through the feet, just using your hands as a gentle stabilizer. Pressing down and releasing. So it's like the beginning of bridge pose. You might feel your tailbone curling up a little. And then again, pressing down and holding. Maybe your hips are slightly off the floor. Noticing your breathing. Gradually release. And maybe feeling that natural kind of sigh of relief as the effort subsides. And then bringing your hands off the floor, but keeping your elbows on the floor. And your fingers quite relaxed, just curling in. And you can do a couple of very gentle taps, just tapping your upper arms, your elbows on the floor. So maybe moving them around a bit, closer to you, a little bit further away, determining the most comfortable place for them to be. You might also feel called to shift your shoulders a little bit, your shoulder blades. And what would be a nice base if you press down through your elbows? Do they feel in quite a good place to support you? And then pressing down through your feet and your elbows and release. So pressing down through your feet and your elbows and almost immediately release again. Gradually contract and release. Maybe your hands want to become a little bit involved as well. You might notice you're making fists a bit more, and that's okay. Relaxing it as you come back down. Contract and release. And then it might start to feel quite natural to bring your hips up a bit further. Gradually release back down, coming into kind of a bridge pose, a bit different because your hands are off the floor. Going as high or as low as you please. And after a few of these, coming up to what might feel like a bit of a bridge pose, pressing down through the feet and the elbows, and holding this again for a few breaths, noticing your breathing. And as you come down, noticing what you do with your breathing. And then coming back to lying down with your legs extended. Maybe a natural sigh wants to happen again, and notice the connection with the floor, if anything's changing. Encouraging your whole body to relax and let go. And then turning the feet up again, extending gently through the heels, just checking whether there's a sense that your hips are aligned with your heels or your heels are aligned with your hips. You don't need to check visually. Feel it. Do you feel like your feet are hip width apart? And then bringing your hands by your side, fingertips up towards the ceiling, stretching the heels of the hands towards the feet. So a kind of very activated way of lying down. One more time. And then releasing again to relaxation pose. And then one by one, sliding the heels in towards you and bringing your knees in towards your chest. Hugging your knees with your hands close to you. And then moving your knees away. So a few of these knee to chest movements. Releasing your lower back a bit more. Bringing a little bit of a stretch into the buttock muscles as well, which have had a bit of a workout. And then popping one foot back down on the ground, and bringing the other foot up towards the ceiling. You can keep your knee a little bit bent if that helps you to let your hip really rest on the floor. So allowing the weight of your leg to draw down into the hip. And then pointing and flexing the toes a few times. So the flexion is at the ankle and also at the toes. Moving the calf muscles. And then changing sides. And then bringing the foot back down on that side. And rolling over to one side. Just coming up to sitting just for a moment. Sitting whatever way is comfortable. You might come to kneeling or upright kneeling. Getting used to being upright. And then coming to all fours. So we can spread our hands onto the floor. Hopefully that's comfortable. If not, you can come down to your elbows and still have your hands spread to the floor, but in this case there'll be just a little bit more support through the whole of the forearms. So our hands and our feet are neurologically very connected, so if we can do work on our hands, it will benefit our feet. If we work on our feet, it benefits our hands. So getting a nice base through your hands. And then looking behind you, checking that your feet are aligned with your knees. And then doing a few cat stretches, so arching one way and the other way. The front of the feet flat on the floor, which might give you a little bit of a stretch at the front of the ankles. And then if you're not already on your forearms, resting on your forearms, then come down to your elbows and your forearms. And you can roll your palms up and down a few times. So we're rotating across the outside of the forearms and the wrists, rolling over. Feeling the connection with the ground still. And then bringing the palms down. You can spread your fingers again if you can. And then tucking your toes under. With an awareness that your heels are pointing up towards the ceiling. And then doing a few more cat stretches, arching up and arching down. And then we can shift our weight back a little bit towards the heels, bring our hands a bit closer. So a bit more of a stretch in the toes. And then we can turn the feet the other way again and come to upright kneeling. And then coming up to standing in whichever way works best for you. You could tuck your toes under, do it via a squat, or bring one foot forwards, come up via a mini lunge. And coming up to standing, aware of both feet on the ground. And noticing how it is to now stand completely upright. What we might call mountain pose, with the feet hip width apart. Sense of the hips being over the ankles and the arches of the feet. Shoulders over the hips. You can have a little bit of a wriggle. If you notice there's some tension in your quadriceps, the front of the thighs, or your buttocks, maybe soften your knees, see if you can let it go. How is it to stand? And then take a few steps to notice how your walking feels. Your feet on the ground.